Okay guys, in this session we are going to discuss about a couple of points. The first one is the issue raised by one of you, that is you try to create a parameter. Okay, we have discussed about these parameters in last session, right? Instead of using color from color data set, why don't I use the color from the same data set? So this is one of the question asked by uh, you guys, and the other question is people are getting error, forward dependency is not valid. If you see both the reason, the answer for both the questions is same. If you use this color in this one, then it will lead to this error. This is the best way to put it. Okay, and let's discuss about this issue and why it is coming and why can't I use that, and then we will also discuss about the difference between parameters and filters. We have filters. We discussed about filters and we discussed about parameters, lot of options in parameters. And what is the difference and in which case you will use what? Okay. Let's discuss about these two topics in today's session, and from next session onwards we can continue with the expressions. Okay, first let's jump into the issue that people are facing, that when they try to use the color column from here in this parameter. Let me show you practically. Instead of going for the color data set, I'll go to the imp data set and the column is color. I can use this color, right? And this is what Kranti has asked. Why don't I use it here? And Priya has raised an issue. Okay, I'm getting this error. So when you use like this, then you'll get this issue. Okay, let me close this. This is the output window, and you can see the same error whatever Priya has raised, I'm getting. So that is why I said the answer for both the questions is same. So why I'm getting this error? I got different views from you guys, and none of the views, sorry to say this, none of the views are correct. Let me explain you why I'm getting this error. First, let me take the pen. Okay, let's see the sequence here, how it works. Okay, first what I'm doing, I'm loading the values to these parameters, and I'm displaying the values in the parameters, and once the user is selected, then I'm gonna filter based on the selection and displaying the data, right? This is how the sequence. So the first step is loading parameters. Second step is user selects the parameter values whatever you want to see. Third step is you will send the selected values to the main data set where you have data, and the fourth step is pull the data and show in the report. Agree? Now if you observe it carefully, there is a deadlock. This guy needs value to load, and this guy needs value to filter and get the output. If I get value to this data set, then only I can load to this, right? If I get value to this, then only I can filter this. If you observe here, first I have to, let me erase the drawings first. So first I have to fill this value. As you said, if I try to take the value from here, that means this should have value by the time the parameter loads, right? This data set should return the data by the time for loading this parameter. And to return data in this data set, this parameter has to pass value, right? So the first step is loading the parameter. For loading the parameter, what you need? You need data in this data set. Okay, to get data in this data set, what you need? You have to pass the value to the value of the parameter color. So if you observe, these two are deadlocked. If I have value, then parameter will be loaded. If a parameter is loaded, then I can pass value. And once I get value, then only the data set will be executed and the parameter will be loaded. And if you observe, it's a deadlock. You can't, what this guy will say is, first give me the value so that I'll give you the parameter value to you. And what this guy will say is, first give me the parameter value, then I'll give you the value. Correct? So this is pretty straightforward one. You all know, right? This parameter needs value from here. And this data set need value from the parameter to query. So if you don't query, will it get value parameter? It won't get. If parameter don't get value, can you pass value to the parameter to the query? It can't pass. So this is called deadlock position. So forward dependencies in the sense this parameter value is dependent on this data set and this data set is dependent on this parameter value. So and that is why it will say forward dependencies are not is not allowed in SSRS. And that is why we won't go for the columns in the same data set. Columns in the same data set which is having parameter values. Okay. Still I can see a couple of blank faces. Let me explain it again. Here you can see parameter color, right? To fill this parameter color, what data set you are using? You are using import imp underscore data set, right? This is what I have said. This color column I have used there. So to fill this, I need to get value into the data set. Getting value into the data set in the sense, I need to execute this query. Clear up to here? If I execute this query, I'll get the values. Once I get the values, this data set will be loaded. Okay? But to execute, this is fine. But to execute this query, you need what? A red color. Correct? If you don't have a red color value, this query will not be executed. It will say, man, I'm still waiting for a red color. And it will look into parameter, man, please select something so that I can execute. This guy, for selecting purpose, it will look into this. First you execute and give me values, man, I don't have any value to select. So this means one is dependent on the other. This is why wherever we have a parameter values like this, we don't use the same query in the same fields in the parameters. Why? Because until the parameter value is loaded, I can't pass the values here. But until this query, this data set is executed, parameter values cannot be loaded. So these are forward dependencies, we call it as in SSRS. And that is why she was getting the forward dependencies are not valid here. You see, this is the error you have to look into, and this forward dependencies error is just because she was trying to refer to a column in the data set in parameter, which is in return having the same parameter used. Okay. And that is why we will create separate data sets for the parameters. So the parameters should be independent on the main data set query. Why? Because parameters should be loaded first. Then only the values will be passed to the query and it will be filtered. So that is why we are adding different data sets for the main parameters, and based on the value selection we are filtering the main data set which is pulling data for displaying in the report. This is about this issue. And now let's see, let me give you an assignment. There is an assignment for you guys. Yesterday I thought of giving you, but I forgot. At the end of the session, today also I'm thinking the same. At the end of the session, let's give the assignment, but I'll forget it again. So take down the assignment, and after that we'll continue with the next concept. So the assignment for you guys is, let's say I have a query, okay, which is returning duplicate values. So I have a query which is returning duplicate values. Let's say this data set. Let's assume I have this one. I have data set and I don't have distinct. Write a query like this. Nothing else. Just write select color from without having distinct value. Okay. And refer to the same in your parameter. Color DS. The field is color and label field is also color. Fine. Now if you preview it, you will get the duplicates in the color text box. Color drop down list. Let me show you that. I've selected all. And you can see red is repeating, and black. The values are getting repeated, right? So what is the assignment for you guys is, you should not use distinct. You should not do anything. You have to get duplicate values in the data set, but not in the parameter. Do whatever you want to do, but filter only the color, distinct colors needs to be shown in the color parameter. But remember, you should not use distinct here. If you use distinct query here, automatically it will be filtered and automatically the distinct records will come and you don't need to do anything else. Why I am giving this assignment when you have distinct here? You can simply use distinct keyword instead of going for all extra bullshit work, right? The reason behind this one is if you point to SharePoint, if your database is in SharePoint, there is no keyword called distinct, or there is no way to get the distinct records. You will be getting all the duplicate records. How you will handle it, right? You should know how to handle when you get the duplicate records into your data set, which needs to be shown in the parameter, correct? So there are a couple of databases which don't accept distinct keyword, which don't have distinct keyword. So that means you will be getting duplicate values into your data set and the same will be shown in your parameter. So in that case, how you can filter and show only distinct values, that's the assignment for you guys. And for this assignment, I'll give you 2 days practice, try and get back to me on by day after tomorrow's session. So that's the assignment. Hope you will finish it by day after tomorrow's session. And now let's jump into the next query or next concept, that is the difference between filters and parameters. And I hope people have a little idea about filters. So if you go to the dataset properties, you have two things. One is parameters and another one is filters. And parameters, you know it very well. This is the query parameter and this is the report parameter, and you are mapping it here. And filters, if you want to filter any one color. So go to, let's say, color and is equal to, I'm giving black. Okay. And if you observe here, you have different options like not equal to, like, and while giving like, you should give something like this. Generally, how like will be given in SQL Server. How the like operator will be checked in SQL Server. Like will be checked with percentage, right? Percentage, and you can use underscore. There are so many ways. But here it will be star. You have to give star. The starting value and ending value. If you want to add something else, you have to give star instead of the percentage. Remember that, okay? And you have different operators like greater than if you are checking any integer value, and greater than or equal to for dates and integers, and less than or equal to. And top n, what it will do is it will take top n, top 7 records, top 10 records. Let's say if you give top n of 5, then it will show only top 5 rows in that particular data set. This data set will return some 100 rows, let's assume, and it will say only top 5. Okay. In the same way, bottom 5, top percent, bottom percent, and in operator. If you want to check more than one, then you can go for in operator. I've never used in, so I think it will be like something black, comma, blue, something like this. Okay. I've never tried that. Let's try this in operator. Actually, this in may create problem. Let's try that one. And between operator, you know to check the dates between so and so, like from this and from that, from this date to from that date value. Well, you know, right, between operator, what it will check. Starting date and ending date, if you give, it will check the between these 2 dates. Now let me go for in operator. In I've given blue and black. I don't know whether it works or not. Let's try it out. Click on preview. Let me take this guy. This is irritating really. Show output. I'll move it somewhere here. Okay. And let me select all the colors and all the categories and all the colors and all the products. So if I click on view, it's not showing any data just because the filter condition is wrong. So let me, I've never tried this in. To be frank, I've never tried this in. That's why I'm getting confused. Might be I have to give like this. I'm not sure how to use in. In my 8 years of experience, I have not used, and that is why I'm not getting. Okay. Okay. So let me select it. I'm trying just in front of you guys first time. So that's why I'm facing difficulty. Okay. View. I think even this is not correct. So how to give this in operator? If you have any idea, you can let me know here. I'll take suggestions. I'll take values. I think it's just simple separator with comma. Let me try this. In black, comma, blue. I've not given anything, just black, comma, blue. Let me select all the values. Oops. Yeah, this is how you have to give in. Just the values list that you want to provide, like black, comma, blue, comma, yellow, comma, and so on. So if you observe, you have so many options here for filtering the data set. So this filtering you can use like for color or anything, and you have so many operators like greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. If you have an integer, you can give greater than or equal to, or if you have a date greater than or equal to, like operator, I showed you how to use like operator and so on. Now the question is, either you can go with filters or you can go with parameters. Both is gonna do the same job. Why you need two different options? Why you need filters and why you need parameters? What is the advantages of parameters and what is the advantages of this filters? And yeah, Shiva said that parameters for dynamic filters, dynamic, and filters for static. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll make it dynamic. Is it fine? I'll show you how to make it dynamic. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna make these value dynamic, the filter value. I'll show you that. So actually I'm taking this color condition out. Okay, I'm taking this color out. If you observe, I'm not filtering. That means I'm not using parameter to filter color. Agree? And here I'm taking this one out. So that means it will show all the colors even if I select only one color. Right? I don't have parameter now. Okay. So it will not have any impact based on the color selection. Now what I'm gonna do here is, for this particular data set, in filters, I'm adding a filter saying color. This is also I'm just trying for first time. And here I'm going for the parameter and selecting the parameter color. Whatever the parameter color I'm selecting there, I want to show it here. Okay. Let's see whether it works or not. I'm trying to make it dynamic. I'm trying to make the filter part dynamic. I've not given any static value for the filter. I've given a dynamic value, that is whatever the parameter that I'm selecting here, that should come. So I'm unchecking everything. I'm going for only black. It will throw error first. Why? Because I'm getting duplicate values, right? That is the error. Okay. Now let me go back again and select all the categories, subcategories, and let me select only one color. Let's say black, and let's say so and so. Oops, still I'm getting the error. One second. Let me fix this error. You don't worry about all this stuff, guys. Here, this is high level. You don't need to write all this kind of stuff. I'll guarantee that. I'm trying to make use of parameter in my report. That's it. And why I'm saying is you're not going to use this because I've never used this. In my experience, I've never used this, and I think the same. You are not going to use this one. Why? Because this is the very worst way of coding. Okay, let me select subcategory. Let me select only one color. Let's say black, and let me select all the products and let me execute it. Guys, please filter here. Okay, now this has become a dynamic one. If I select blue, it should get blue, right? Now I'm using filter, but it is dynamic. It is based on the parameter. What I've done is, there is no products for the gray color. What I've done is, I've taken the filter and filter value is equal to, I'm getting it from the parameter, whatever the parameter that they are selecting, get the first value and use it, right? I'm taking only the first value. Now let me make it for more values. I'll try to use this. I'll give a comma separator. Okay, I'm doing it for, I'm doing this parameter as dynamic one for multiple values. Let's see whether it works or not. If it works, then I don't need parameters, right? As per Shiva, at least. Agree, Shiva? So I've selected one color. It is coming correctly. Let me select two colors. Please God. It is not coming because it is having extra stuff. So somewhere again I have to do some massaging for this. So but for sure I can guarantee that you can do it. Okay, you can make it work for multiple values also. So my question here is, when I can achieve this using the filter, why I need parameters? And Kranti said that even I am not using the parameter in the query, I am using this parameter value in my filter. So if you observe, we are talking about the query parameters versus filters. These parameters are just dummy. The report parameters are dummy, just used to uh, select some value by the user. That's it, not more than that. User can select a value. Apart from that, it's of no use. Okay, these report parameters. So whenever people ask you like what is the difference between the filters and parameters, it's always comparison between filters and the query parameters, not the report parameters. Okay, just remember that. Now let me go back to that. I'll go for black color. Okay, now the question is why? What is the use of parameters and what is the use of filters? Now if I add the color parameter, it will filter and it will get the data. Or I can use the same here to filter the data. What is the advantage and which one is better over the other one? So let's discuss about all those questions now. Before going to that, let me delete this one also. I have more conditions and more parameters. Every time I can't be able to select, that's why I'm removing two parameters from here. Okay, so now it will be easy for me to select. Only two parameters will be there. Okay, here it is. Okay, fine. So now I have only two parameters. It will be easy if I can execute again and again. That's the problem I was facing when I was having four parameters. I have to select everything every time I execute the report, right? I have not set the default values. Now let's come back to the story that what is the difference between filters and parameters and why you need parameters when you have filters or why you need filters when you have parameters. Guys, if you have any opinion or if you have any answers for this, you can go ahead. Why do you feel that parameters and filters, which one is better and why we need two and so on? Parameters performance is better, good answer, and any other answers? Okay, Shiva feels that filters is good in performance. So Divya said using filter we can limit the data from the data set. Yeah, okay, good. Any other answers? Now let me explain you why the advantage, what is the difference between parameters and filters. If you observe it, whenever I apply the query parameters, where I am applying? I am applying in the query, right? So, and if you see the filters, I am applying in the data set here, somewhere here. So the difference between these two is, if you take the database, let's say this is your database and this is your data set and this is your filter. Okay, the query parameters will send the query and the parameter values to the database, and it will fetch only the filtered data to the data set. But on the other hand, the filters will be applied on the filtered data or on the data set. Okay, if you observe, let's say I have a 100,000 records, and that means 1 lakh records in the table. Okay, and in that I have 10 colors information. And if I apply the query filter and query parameter, and if the query parameter will be sent here, and if it filters and returns only 2 records, okay, let's say you have only 2 records with 1 color, and you send the color as the query parameter, and it will go here among this 1 lakh records, it will filter those 2 and it will get those 2 records to your data set. This is the first scenario. And if you don't use this query parameter, what will happen? And if you use filter, what will happen? 1 lakh records will be fetched to the database, to the data set, and once the 1 lakh records are fetched, then this filter will be applied on top of the 1 lakh records and filter those 2 records. Right? So if you observe it, you have two cases. One is using the data, one is using the parameter, and another one is using the filter. Let's say this is your parameter. Okay, this is DB and this is DS. And again, this is DS. The second case is filter part. And this is output of DS after filtering part. This is also a new DS with filters on. Filter condition is checked. So when you use query parameters, it will send the query to the database with that condition, like where color is equal to blue, color is equal to yellow, something like that. It will filter and get the filtered result set into the data set. That means out of 1 lakh records, let's say the filter condition where color is equal to silver is going to fetch only 2 records. Only those 2 records will be fetched. Okay. From the server, I'm getting only 2 records, and these 2 records will be shown in the report. And here in the other case, this data set, if I use filter instead of parameter, this data set will be triggered like select star from fact internet sales inner join so and so without any where condition for the color. It will go and query here. This data set will get 100,000 records. That is all the records that are present. Once the records are fetched into the data set, that means your data set is having 1 lakh records now. It's huge data. And here the filter will be applied on this data set, and the filtered output will be treated as a new data set with filter conditions checked. That is 2 records. Understood? So the condition or the filtration will be done at the database level for the parameter if you use query parameters, and the filtration will be done at a data set level for the filters. That means it will pull all the unwanted shit into your data set, and then it will apply filter. So which one is better in performance? So it is like, okay, I'll tell you an example. This, let me erase this. This is a warehouse where you have balls. Let's say 1 million balls you have. Okay, and this is you, and this is me. If I ask you to get only pink color balls from this data warehouse, what you will do? You can do it in 2 ways. One is go into the room with the query parameters and get the pink color balls and give it to me. Let's say you have 5 pink color balls. How many balls you will get from data warehouse? You will get 5, and you will give that 5 to me. Understood? If I ask you for pink color balls from the warehouse. Now you can do If you're too intelligent, you can do in a different way. That way is go to the warehouse and forget about the pink color balls. Okay, get all the balls here. 1 million balls, or how many balls that are there? 1 million balls. And here you can ping, Rupesh, what do you want? I want pink color. Okay, filter, check only this pink color and give it to me. At the end, what I'm gonna get is same 5 balls. But where he is filtering, where he is applying the filter is important. So if he is applying the filter in the data warehouse and if he gets only 5 balls, it will be easy, right? Instead of getting all the balls into his room and picking only five pink color balls and give it to me. In the same way, the query parameters, the query will be concatenated with the parameter, the condition, and sent to the database, and it will be filtered in the database level and fetch only filter data into your data set. If you use filters instead of data set, it will go here with the plain query, get all the data here, and here the filtration part will be done, and it will be sent to the report. So if you see the performance wise, the parameter will be always better. Why? Because you are leaving all the 99,998 records, which is not required for this report, in the database itself. The bandwidth, everything will be saved, and lot of performance gain will be there. Instead of getting all 1 lakh records into the data set and then applying filter, better apply the filter at the database level, right? So filter the data and get the required data instead of getting all and then filtering. That is why query parameters plays a major role in the performance improvement, and these filters will degrade the performance. So filters is not the best option, and that too if you have huge number of records like 50 million, 100 million records, then if you use filters, it will get all the 100 million records into this, and here the filtration will be applied in the data set, which will be a very big performance hit. Good. Now again the same. Now one more question. Okay, you know these perform parameters. You know the performance of the parameter is better compared to the filter. Then in that case, why these guys has provided filters? It's of no use, right? You can just simply remove the filters from the software itself, right? Why the parameters? Or sorry, why the filters are still available to filter the data? Yeah, lot of good guesses. And now let me explain you why I need filters when I have parameters. Beautiful performance gain I'm getting with the parameters, query parameters. Then why I need filters? So let me do one thing. Let me delete this table and even header. Let me remove the header. Remove page header. And I'm inserting a table, and now I'm gonna design 2 tables. By the end of the design, you will come to know why we need filters. Okay, there are 2 reasons mainly. One reason I'll explain you with this, and let me add one more table. Okay, I've added 2 tables, and the first one I'm adding color, sales amount, tax amount. Here color, sales amount, tax amount. Okay, and I'll also like to add 2 more columns, the remaining 2 columns. That is subcategory and category. Sorry, not category. My bad, it's product. Okay. Now if you see, this guy is having English product subcategory, product name. Let me move this table a little bit to the right. And I have color, sales amount and tax amount. Okay. And the other table, if you observe, I have color. Let me add the same 2 columns here also. Left and left. I'm having subcategory product, color, and so on. If I execute this report, and let me format it a little bit at least. I'm having bold color for this, sorry, bold font for this, and even for this. And let me increase the size of these columns, product name, and oops, this should be subcategory, right? Okay. Okay, now two tables are ready. If I execute this, it will show me both the tables. Man, selecting this one is becoming torture. I'll set the default values next time. So what it is doing, it is giving product category name, wise mountain bikes and so on, and it's separate table. Now let me add two more tables. Okay, and let me increase it, and I've added it here. Okay, now you can see there are four tables. First two on the one row and second two on the second row. Now what I'm gonna do here is I'm adding one more row above, and I'm gonna merge these four rows, and I'm gonna give title it as accessories sales. And I'm gonna add one more on top above, and I'm gonna merge the same, and I'm gonna give it as clothing sales. In the same way, I'm gonna do it for let me do it only for 2 man. It will be too time taking one. Now if you see, I have two tables. One is for clothing sales and one is for accessories sales. How can I show only clothing in one table? If I want to group, if I want to filter the data in a table for clothing, product category name clothing, and the second one for accessories. So this table should have only accessories related stuff. That will be the requirement. Sometimes requirement will be like this, right? So what you have to do is, the option for you is going for a filter. Go to the Tablix properties and go for filters. If you click on add filter here in this one, you'll go to the category name and you will check spelling correct or accessories. And in the same way, I'm using filter to filter this data set, this table for clothing. Check the spelling set. I'm pouring that. So if I execute this, and it will ask for parameters again. I'm forgetting to add the default parameter. Next time I will do that for sure. So if I execute it now, this gives me only accessories related stuff, and this gives me only clothing related stuff. And you can see this is giving jerseys, caps, and so on. This is giving tires and tubes, helmets, and so on. So what you have observed with this, see the dataset level filters, forget the dataset level filter. The filter option is used to filter any particular, for a particular object level. Let's say I'm using the filter at this, okay, at this table level, and hence the filtration is used to filter, and this filter will be applied only up to this level. This cannot be achieved using parameters. Right? If you want to achieve the same, the data set for only for accessories for this one, then you have to create different data sets. How you can get only accessories sales? You need to have one data set for this. And for clothing sales, you need to have one data set, which will be very difficult and not the best way. So, among the total data, if you want to show only accessories in one table and clothing in one table and the other one in another table, so you need to filter not at the data set level, but at the table level or the object, whatever you are using. So in that case, you will use filters. This is one advantage. And the next advantage is, let's say for example, SharePoint. If you have data in your SharePoint, you have to write camel case query. Okay. Camel case query is nothing but it's like transact SQL query, which will be used to fetch the data from the SharePoint list, SharePoint tables, let's say. So the camel case query, writing a where condition is not so easy. It won't take in operator. It won't check for multiple things. There is no option to check that. In that case, what is the only option for you is using filters. So if the parameters is not supported for any database connectivity, then the only option for you is filters. Let's say you are pointing to Excel. For pointing to Excel, you cannot add where condition, right? For pointing to Notepad and all, I don't know. I've never tried that. So in that case, what you have to do is, the only option for you is pull all the data and filter it here. I'll tell you an example. The SharePoint example is pretty clear. You can't go for in operator. If you can't go for in operator, then that is very, very difficult, right? Most of the, you can't provide the multi-valued parameters, right? So that is why the SharePoint, what people will do is they'll pull almost all the data and then they'll filter it if they have multi-values selected in the parameter. If it is single value, SharePoint works fine, but for multi-values, it won't work. You have to write your very complex query, or you have to filter it in the using the filters in the data set. So these two are the main points. One is, whenever the parameters is not supported by any database system, then you have to go for filters. Okay, and the second one is, if you want to filter the data set data for a particular object like a table or matrix or a list, then you need to go for filters. So even though it's a performance sheet, but in these two cases you don't have any other option. The other option is going a different data set for everything, for every condition, every table condition, every filter. Let's say this want accessories, so create a data set name accessories data, and this wants clothing, create a data set with clothing, and another table wants all the data in one, then create a data set with all the categories. So that's not a realistic, that's not the best way of designing, right? So this filters helps to filter the data on the data set as well as on the table or matrix or any object which is binding the data. So this is about, with this the complete discussions on the parameters and the filters is completed, and we have seen, now you are good enough to design the base level reports like a reports using parameters, filters, and what is that, matrix format, in matrix format and tabular format. But if you observe, everywhere in every text box or anywhere if you go, let's say you are here, you can see the expression, right? And in the same way, if you go to the data set and if you go to the parameters, you can find the expression fx. Fx means expression. And if you go to the filters and if you add it, you have expression here as well as here. In the same way, if you go to the fields, you can add calculated fields using the option expression. So what I am trying to say is, wherever you go in this SSRS, okay, even if I want to set the background color, okay, let's say I want to set the background color of this heading. If I go to the properties, this is the background color. I can set to any one color like gray, something like this. Let's say I set to this one. But here you also have an option called expression. So you can set an expression. You can use an expression to set the background color. You can use an expression to set the font style, whether it's a solid or dashed one or something like that. If I give as dotted one, the border will be dotted one for this. Okay, I'll show you. Border width, let me set it to 5 points, and border style, right, let me set it to dotted one. No, this one will not work. So even for the style, if you observe, you can set an expression, you can use an expression. Okay, and let me set the dotted on the all the sides. Dotted and border color black. It should be on all the sides. Okay, border with so and so border. Now let me execute this report and see. how it looks. So what I'm trying to say is whatever the value, whatever the property or whatever the parameter value, whatever the filter value you want to set, you can pass it as a parameter. You can pass it as a parameter, and you can see the border. Can you see the border in dotted lines? Right? You can set this one also as dynamic one. You can set this one as dynamic. That's what I'm saying. So everywhere, if you go to any property, I can say 80% of the properties. Background color, you can see here is an option for setting the expression. In the same way, page size, you don't have that. Let me go to any text box, then you'll find more. The color of the text, you can set it to green or whatever you want, and also you can set it to using expression. And calendar can grow cannot set. You'll have a font. You can set the font, like font size is 10 points, right? Let me go to the font size. You can set it using expression, right? And if you observe this expression, you can see in almost all the places. Almost all the places. So what is meant by expression here? What is the use of expression? The expression helps you in providing a value, a font value, a color value, a background color value, background image value, and whether it's to show or not, parameter value, filter value, whatever it may be. It will help you in setting the value dynamically. If you see, this is static. This color is background and everything is static. If you set it, it will be static. But in the same way, you can set it as dynamically. Okay, if the text is color, then set it in, let's say a requirement. If the sales is less than $25, show it in red color. If the sales is greater than $100, show it in green color. So that is a dynamic one. You don't know when, for which product it will be 25, for which product it will be 100, right? So that is dynamic. So you can set the coloring, the background, the font style, the font weight, and so on, everything. Even the value. You can set it dynamically using the option called expression. And expression, if you don't know expression, that means you don't know SSRS. And you'll be using lot and lot of expressions. You have to write lot and lot of expressions in SSRS. And actually, I've showed a report to Swati today, and there, for every cell, I have written an expression. There were some 250 or 300 cells, and this is a cell. I mean, cell means this one. One text box is one cell. For every cell, I have written an expression. And everywhere I have used an expression. And if you see, even in group properties, if you take it, you will find an expression. You can group it based on expression. So page breaks, you will not find. For sorting, you will find expression. You can sort it based on some dynamic value. And visibility, you have an option called expression. So that is why I'm saying this expression. If you don't understand this, that means you are not fit for SSRS development. Clear? And the same expressions we'll be discussing in tomorrow's session. And that's it for today's session. And try to go through Google and come with some knowledge on expressions that will really help you in understanding the things easily. Thank you guys. Have a good day to people in India and good night to people outside India. Bye bye.